Well, playoffs are in play. Sixers is still out. We're still talking about a lot of different things in the offseason as we are again in week number 2. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers podcast on a Tuesday. Yes, that's it.
Show 7.
Show 7.
I don't know how many.
Show 7.
It's like legitimately like 120 or something like that.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
It's a lot. The draft will help us, though.
Lock in, fellas.
The draft will help us. And that's why we're going to give you a lot of different things. Like we had our mailbag on Monday. We're going to do that throughout the offseason. We'll tell you about some things for tomorrow and Thursday and Friday as we go along throughout the offseason. We've got you covered. And that's why we're happy to have you with us. Derek Bodner, Kyle Newbeck, Devon Givens, Bree hanging out with us. Mark and Keith B starting things off in the chat for us. And we can't wait to hear from many more of you as we talk about. Yes, we'll get to some playoff stuff a little bit later. We'll get into the daily tankathon spin with Derek a little bit later as well. Maybe some news and notes if we have some time around the association, just to let everybody know what's going on. But we wanted to start Tuesday off, this day off, with Luka Doncic, as we talked about Nico Harrison continuing to light himself on fire with his comments from the press conference. So, with what he
truly
said,
like self-immolation.
Yes.
Lighting himself on fire is a great way to describe
It's amazing how this is going down. And again, we told you about go to DLLS to check out our teammates there in Dallas, Tim Cato and Mark Stein, with the things that they have written. Kyle was referencing ESPN's Tim McMahon. You know, it's funny too, Kyle. Everybody was coming at Tim McMahon when he was putting that story together.
I meant to send to Tim McMahon because
Yeah.
I've met him and know him through media stuff. There was a Tim McMahon apology form, just like we've seen for like Tobias Harris and all the other stuff. Like, very funny how quickly things can change.
Especially Tim, because Tim, he likes to needle people a little bit.
Yeah.
Like he likes to be a little bit sarcastic and funny, and I could see how like if you might rub you the wrong way, but when he ends up being proven right, an apology for him, I think is
he was right. He looked like he might have been right. And maybe that'll even help his book sales with that book that he has with Luka coming out or already out. But we wanted to talk about
timing on that was perfect.
Was it ever? We wanted to talk about today because of playing those comments yesterday from the last press conference from Nico Harrison about Luka Doncic, everything that goes along with it. There was another one where someone asked about Quentin Grimes, and he had to I'm on that one too. That was the right thing for us to do. Not a good last couple of months for Nico Harrison. That's going to continue. That's not going to get any better for him until they win like 10 championships for him. But we wanted to talk about, because of how surprising that Luka Doncic trade was, who might be next. There are only a certain amount of teams left playing in the postseason right now, 16 teams. So there are 14 teams out, and right now, 16 teams out. And we don't know what's going to happen in the offseason. There are always surprises that things happen. That was a true surprise where none of us saw the Luka Doncic thing happening. Derek had in the preseason picks, Jimmy Butler's going to get traded at some point. He was right. That was a good read. Luka's on a whole nother level. So what we wanted to ask everybody, because of the Luka Doncic trade, maybe there's a Sixer involved in this conversation as well. Who is the next most likely star to be on the move? Whether it's a surprise, whether it's somebody that we can kind of forecast because of their situation that we've heard from beat reporters there or national reporters or anything that we've heard. We want to talk about some of them and how it also might impact the Philadelphia 76ers. And we have a decent list of names that we want to get through. If you look at the thumbnail picture, there are 3 of them in there. You see the first 2. Do you see the back of the jersey of another one? That's also in there as well. So we're going to talk about that, start there, and also get into maybe a 76er that might belong on this list. So, Kyle, let's start off with the big fella. Not as tall as Joel Embiid. The problem with him is he's a big fella that can't stay on the floor because he's injured in New Orleans.
You mean the wide fella?
The wide fella.
Is that the one we're talking about?
There you go.
That's good. I'm trying to. I was like, were we talking about things today?
And Shade says in the comments, if we can get Zion and Joel alternating healthy days to cover up a whole season, there you go. Let's start off with Zion Williamson because while it may not be that big of a surprise, it is one because he was looked at as obviously the next superstar.
Yeah, I mean, when he came into the league, coming off of that season at Duke, it's like, man, this guy is a world destroyer, right? He had an incredible freshman season at Duke. They went to, was that an Elite Eight team? Am I remembering correctly? Yeah. So they go on an Elite Eight run, and he was great on both ends of the floor, right? Like a constant weak side helper as a shot blocker, getting into passing lanes, creating steals, complete wrecking ball on offense. And I think everyone was just like, it's only a matter of time before this guy is part of the new generation of stars, is like at the forefront of the league, and has a couple of all-star appearances. So it's not as though he hasn't produced. His issue has been similar to what we've seen with Joel Embiid, right?
Yep.
He just simply cannot stay healthy. So 30 games played this past season. He played 70 a year prior, which that is the best season for him by far. The two before that, 29 games, and then he missed completely 2021-22 with injuries. And so the Pelicans are at this interesting crossroad, right? On the one hand, his overlap with Brandon Ingram in terms of the areas of the floor they want to use and playing that kind of point forwardy type of role, although they're not the same as players. That was part of the justification on New Orleans' end of we're not going to pay Brandon Ingram, and we need to make a decision with him. So they trade him to the Toronto Raptors, and it's like, okay, we clear the decks a little bit, we set ourselves up for the future. But I think there is still, potentially all the way up to the ownership level, this sentiment of we just can't trust this guy, right?
Yep.
And unlike with Joel Embiid or some other players, so like Kawhi Leonard would be the highest high-end example, but there are other guys. Unlike them, Zion and his play has never been able to lead them to any sort of success, right? Like they've topped out at first round exit, right? And some owners are okay with that. They're happy just being in it, like the Chicago Bulls we bring up all the time. And it does seem like Zion is just kind of at the end of his rope in New Orleans. There's been smoke for a while that they're just going to be happy to reset, figure out what's next. You got Trey Murphy, you got Yves Missi. You're going to have a pretty high pick in this draft. Where that falls will depend on the lottery. And so I don't have a good sense of what Zion's market is, because when he plays, super productive player, right? This year in 30 games, 24.6 points a game, 7.2 rebounds, 5.3 assists, shot nearly 57% from the field. Now, still not much of a three-point shooter. That's part of his game that has never come. But he is a do-it-all on offense type of guy, a true point forward type at this point, who, when healthy, you could talk me into him being one of the 15 best players in the league, somewhere in that range. And if a team can get him to lock in on the conditioning stuff, and you get better health luck, he is one of the biggest home run swings you could take right now on a distressed asset player who's a blue chip value player that isn't quite viewed that way because of all the injury stuff. So he might be one of the most interesting players in the league, period. And we talked a little bit before the show. If you're in the mindset of the Sixers need to move Paul George, like I saw 1 year of him, he's old and I just don't want to deal with him. We got to figure out something to do with that contract, get off of it. And you want to push chips in. You want to be in the short-term business. I don't think there are many more, if any more, interesting plays that you could make than saying, take that contract, we attach picks, maybe McCain, like whatever it might be, to get him. I don't have a sense of what the market is. And you just bring in Zion and say, if he's healthy, if Joel's healthy, we have one of the most talented teams in the league with some youth on our side now as well. And if you don't, then you just tank and you say nobody's healthy and you just punt the season and you try to bottom out entirely. Like that has some interest for me, but I don't think that that's the, I would guess that's not likely for the Sixers. And I would say they probably have very little appetite to bring on another, appetite, probably the wrong word to use as Zion, but they don't have a lot of interest in bringing on another injury prone star would be my guess.
Do you realize he's been in the NBA 6 years? He has played in 30 or more than 30 games just twice in those 6 years. That's not even a high bar. That's a 30
And it's been
game
boomer
threshold.
bust too,
Yes.
right? Like he played the 70 and he played 61 in his
And
sophomore
it's
year.
24, 29, 30, missed an entire season.
Even though it's the college schedule, he played 33 games for Duke. But that's a good number for a college
for
schedule.
him, that's the third highest in his career.
There you go.
And his contract for his per game productivity, his contract it would be a great contract if he played regularly. Like we're talking where I just had it a second ago. We're talking like $39 million next year. It is not a massive contract for a superstar player. The problem is he's a superstar legitimately like once every third year.
And doesn't he have language in his contract that's also dependent on the games and the...
Yeah, he's got a limit on the beignets he's able to
exactly.
eat from. Is it Cafe Du Monde in New Orleans, I believe is the place?
There you go.
I'm just messing around. I don't know what the exact, the offsetting type language
But there's some
in
languages in there of him having to stay in a certain area to hit those marks.
If it was just like Paul George for Zion, yes, of course. Give me that swap. It might not be a high probability, but at least the upside is there. It's when you start getting into like, the Clippers pick, McCain pick. Like, how much of a risk are you willing to take there? That's when I start getting a little queasy. But, no, I probably can't give up major assets to get a guy that's going to miss 60 games. Like, that would be real tough to do.
No, it's difficult.
Like Kyle mentioned, like, if Embiid is healthy and if Zion healthy, well, yes, if I won Powerball, I'd be a millionaire. That doesn't mean I'm emptying my bank account.
If I met Sydney Sweeney and if I had $10 billion.
And if I didn't look like this. Anyway, we're off track. What are we talking about?
No, we're on track because it's the if factor of where things are with him. It's 6 years in his career. He's 24 years of age, and he's played, what did you say? Twice more with the 61 and the 70.
More than 30 games.
And that's
he
insane.
averages 35 per year.
That's insane. And I imagine that, look, we've all heard stories about him and his conditioning and his habits and things that he doesn't or does like to do that gets him in this trouble. It just simply gets him in this trouble. Just like in the offseason, it doesn't get any better. I remember when he, Luka, and I think it was Tatum, they were over in some country doing some Jordan brand thing. And the dude was, I think it was a little bit earlier, someone had said, I think it was B-Ball Paul in the chat, said Devon's trying to stay away from fat jokes. I'm not trying to stay. He was just a big guy. Yeah. It was in the offseason. Big dude, looked like he put on more weight, which means he's going to have to now go into the start of the season and trying to shed that weight in training camp. He's unavailable and can't get on the floor for them.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. And that is the problem. He's still 24 years, which is why you would really, really think about taking a swing and saying, yes, I'll do it, especially if it was just a 1-for-1. But when you really have to get into the Jared McCain or another first-round pick or something along those lines, you really have to start pulling back because of what he hasn't shown you versus what he has shown you.
Well, and it is crazy because he will just be 25 next year.
Yes.
Like, he's 24 right now. It feels like he is much older than that. If you gave me even a little bit of a hint that he would turn that around and be healthy on an even 50 game per year basis, I would absolutely do McCain.
I'll make a little bit of a fat joke. You got to send him to a city that has worse food. Honestly,
yeah,
New Orleans is a good food
and it's
city.
not even a cheesesteak thing. It's a restaurant scene. Yeah.
There's just send him to maybe Indianapolis is a bad example because he'd just be at St. Elmo's like every day eating big time steaks. Yeah, OKC. I can't.
I don't know the food, but don't know.
OKC fans in our comments here
we
today.
Apologize. We'll come visit and get some food there. But yes, Slade says he's husky. Let's just go. He's husky and that way. But like, he's a real guy.
Thing. This is not. We're not just like, oh, I'm looking at the guy and he's fat, right? He has had issues with conditioning for a while now. And there are all kinds of stories that have come out of New Orleans. Like this guy has not taken that stuff seriously. So obviously, if you're a team that's trading, like set the Sixers aside, if you're a team trading for him, it's a big risk. You might take this guy and he might say, oh, they're validating like, oh, they believe in my talent, right? I don't need to change my habits. He has not necessarily hit the sort of rock bottom that a player of his stature would probably need to hit to get the reality check of like, oh God, like How have I gone from breakout player, like high school phenom, freshman season off the charts at Duke, really coveted and hyped up young player, to who am I now? Like, who wants me? Who wants to feature me as a player? And I think we've seen some things, I think at the start of this year, that it indicated like, all right, he's taken the dieting and the conditioning stuff a little more seriously. And then still 30 games played.
Yeah.
30 games played.
Sometimes we do talk about, all jokes aside, with the food that's there and available to him, just to change the scenery. That sometimes players, in whatever sport, you just simply need a change of scenery to refocus and change the outlook on how people really look at you.
Or even the right guys around you, too.
Sure.
Charles Barkley talks a lot about Moses Malone basically turned him from a boy into a man. And like Charles was overeating and fat and out of shape. And Moses came in and was like, you're a fat ass. Like that was a real thing he brought him under his wing and needed that. And like, I don't think that's going to happen in New Orleans. And I think that's a harder thing to have in general in sports, right? A lot of young players are not fortunate enough, which is why I think the Sixers are a good Ace Bailey landing spot, by the way. He doesn't have to come in and run the program, so to speak. But it's a tough spot to be in when you're 24, 25, you're a young veteran, you've made a bunch of money already. Who's going to get him on track? I think it has to be him. I don't think it can be external.
So you're saying a couple inches around the waistline matter?
Might be more than a couple in this instance. I don't know.
Be careful, man. Might have to fine you $50K on that. When we come back, we'll take a look at, we have a list. Again, a long list of players that we want to talk about. We just spent a decent amount of time on Zion Williamson because not just the jokes, he's that good where you would really have to think about it.
He's a big name.
He's a big name, and that is important.
Emphasis on big.
We'll come back and we'll get to more names. See if you guys can guess some of the names that we're going to talk about in the chat as we take a quick break right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. And if you would like to bet of where Zion or maybe any of these others might land in the association if they were to be moved, you can go to BetParks and place a wager at the sportsbook if you were there at BetParks Casino. But I also want to tell you about the online casino if you just want to, if you're having some downtime, you're at work, maybe you're taking a train, going to another city, and just maybe you want to play a little game here. And how about you play, I don't know, blackjack or slots, roulette, cards, whatever, all on the BetParks Casino. And it's the BetParks app. All the games we love and play in person at Parks Casino, like pop culture, I mentioned the slots, roulette, cards, as well, dice games, and more can also be played on the BetParks app. Parks Online Casino has the games you love, whether you're at home or on the go. If you are feeling pretty good and you want to go to the actual casino, it's located in Ben Salem. Take the Street Road exit off of I-95 and the PA Turnpike. But if you're feeling pretty solid about, you know what, I really love this app. I have it on my phone right here, and it's very convenient to navigate, play those games just like you play any other games. But you get some real stakes here where you can win some really good money. Download the BetParks app and create an account today. Receive an offer you can't pass up. New users can receive up to $1,000 back because you will be eligible to do so if you are down in the first 24 hours after signing up. BetParks Online Casino is available in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, and Michigan residents. Terms and conditions apply. Parks Casino, this is how you win. You must be 21 and over. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Well, it didn't help either the Knicks or the Nuggets last night, but home court advantage is a thing, and your home needs a home floor advantage, and Empire Today can help you get it. Empire Today has flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. We've all been to some of those big box stores, and they might have a flooring department, but the person that's helping you with flooring may have been doing sinks yesterday and could be doing or stocking light bulbs tomorrow. Empire Today lives and breathes flooring, and they will be with you every step of the way. Their flooring experts bring the showroom right to your home. You pick the right flooring and the right colors for your space so you can see how it looks with your furniture and in your house. You get precise measurements taken and have all of your questions answered. So there are no surprises. With Empire Today, you get clear, upfront, and all-inclusive pricing. Plus, you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. Schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. PHLY listeners can receive a $350 discount when using the promo code PHLY. You heard that right. A $350 discount with code PHLY. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/PHLY for full details.
Let's get to the next guy here as we return here on the PHLY Sixers podcast on the Tuesday. We get to the next guy, next name. Also a Carolina native. That was, or is he native or he was just teammates with Zion in AAU? I think he's a native. But anyway, let's go to Ja Morant. He might be out pretty soon. He might be joining Zion in the offseason, where they can talk about a few things. And Ja Morant's
hopefully
team,
because his team is out and not because he threw a grenade into the
fair point.
the crowd.
Yes, and getting fined once again. His team lost by 51. They were down by as many as 56. Probably should have been down by as many as more as that because that team was on a roll. They lost 131-80 on Sunday in game one of the first round matchup against OKC. They play again tonight. Ja Morant, though, also might be a name that could potentially need a change of scenery because a few years ago they looked like a really, really promising team that was ready to win. This year, we thought, Kyle and I, that the coach might be coach of the year because he returns Taylor Jenkins, and he had Ja Morant.
Had to bring it up again.
Who returns?
We don't have to be loud about being wrong, Devon. We could just be wrong,
And he's no longer there, but he has a new coach. Maybe the coach won't necessarily like how Ja Morant plays and things of that nature. But he is one that needs to be talked about, Derek, because he is another one that, hey, there's a lot going on with Ja Morant.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think when they were building that big three, they thought they had like one top 10 player, then maybe like two guys in the 20s, and you probably have like one guy in the 20s and one guy in the 30s and one guy in like the 50s. And it just didn't work out quite the way. And if you don't get that top 15 guy, which we've talked about a lot recently, and I don't think Ja right now is. I don't think he has taken the steps forward that a lot of people expected. I don't think he has taken the steps forward that, quite frankly, he needs for them to be a legitimate title contender. And could they move him? Sure. I'm not sure if he's all that likely. Like, I think some of the names on this list are more likely. But the question is, like, how well does he actually fit? Like, I think the lack of shooting progress is real. Defensively, I think he just gets lost at times, even though they can overcome that. I mean, look, I don't think he fits with either of your two guards right now all that well. I think that would be a pretty terrible defensive backcourt. I always go back to, like, if you are going to acquire someone in trade, are you the team that should give up the most assets to go all in to get him? I don't think the Sixers, quite frankly, should be. So, like, would you take him? Yeah, but I don't think you're going to give up enough to beat the market.
Yeah, so I think maybe not this summer because I think given the Jenkins firing, they're probably going to give this some time next year, at least up until the deadline. They were a known suitor of stars at the deadline, right? Like they were not necessarily in the mix, but they made calls on Kevin Durant. They made calls on Jimmy Butler. I don't think those guys had any interest in actually going to Memphis, but on Memphis's end, they were saying, we need something. We want to add something to this group, not necessarily tear it down. But I think when you see them up against OKC, right, who has a lot of the qualities that Memphis should have or thinks they have, right? Like they're young. They have a lead franchise guard who's the best player on the team, who you say everything runs through him and everything matters through him. And yet the gap between OKC and Memphis in a game one of a first round series is 50 plus points, right? And they are, in terms of the seriousness of how they go about their business, they're far apart. A lot of that falls on Ja. It does feel like this isn't just a Ja Morant conversation that, especially with what we've seen recently, I think Jaren Jackson is someone that they're going to have to take a long, hard look at. Like, hey, he's a really interesting and very good defensive player.
He's due for an extension soon, too.
Yes, but does not rebound at the level you need a high-level big to. Desmond Bane, while he has had a very good season, I think has taken another step forward. Do you want to be anchored to him as, like, if you start tearing things down, is that your best player? Or, like, how does he fit in? And so with Ja, the really tough thing is, well, one, while not as bad as Zion, he's had his own share of health issues, right? He normally is in the high 50s, low 60s for games played. He played 50 exactly this year. Last year being the anomaly with everything that's going on, plus the health stuff. And it's been a tumultuous couple years for him. My big question is less about the production and the player, although Derek brings up fair concerns. And like, can you trust this guy as a face of the franchise? Like, we can talk about whether he should be given warnings and fines about doing a finger gun celebration, right? Like, I understand why he is, but when you see him react to not necessarily even the punishment, but like the scrutiny from the league by basically saying, "Oh, why me and nobody else?" It shows a lack of self-awareness about why you have arrived here and why your team is a 7 seed or an 8 seed fighting to get into the playoffs at all, rather than what people think you should be, which is at least like top 4 or 5 team in the West, firm playoff team on the rise. You've won a playoff series before. You are not a group of guys that is on like the downslope of your career. This should be at least like steady incremental progress. And I think a lot of why that hasn't happened is he just has not evolved in any way. That's on the floor with the 3-point shooting. It's off the floor and like mixed in with the celebrations and then just like kind of spitting in the face of the league afterward. I just don't know that I believe in that guy as a pillar of the franchise player. I think if you looked at the fit with Tyrese Maxey, for example, someone like Ja, who is a downhill and playmaking type guy, I think could potentially work, right? Like move Maxey off the ball, move McCain off the ball. I think that's probably too many small guards at that point, and we would talk about what it looks like otherwise. But the deeper you get into covering the league, the more you understand, like, it isn't just about what you see during the games. It's all the stuff that happens in between. How seriously do these guys take their rest? How seriously do they take the off-day workouts? How seriously do they take leadership and like all these little intangible things? I just have not seen that from him. It's not to say it can't happen, right? Like people mature, people grow up, and I hope for his sake that it happens. Like he's a tremendously exciting player to watch, if nothing else, but he's not the guy I would want to take a risk on for sure.
Yeah, he really needs to grow up. I mean, it's just the bottom line. He has to grow up in order to succeed, because you get fined and it's, a pity party of why me and not everybody else, as Kyle said. And then you go out there and you decide, well, I'm going to give another celebration that it's causing harm. Let's just say causing some harm out there. If you're doing that one, you're not helping yourself, man. So, and then you get to this stuff on the floor. Part of the issue was when Taylor Jenkins was there, they got along because the way that he likes to run certain things for Ja Morant, it worked for Morant. They bring in this new coaching staff of the assistants. They want to run other things. Ja Morant doesn't necessarily fit with that. And then when you are healthy enough with Bane and Jackson and the others around them out there on the floor, Scottie Pippen Jr. was running that team, and they still look pretty good.
Yep.
So they allowed themselves to see it look different without him on the floor and still succeed. That doesn't mean that you're going to win a championship, but if you upgrade the Scottie Pippen Jr. role by moving on from Ja Morant and getting that player back in there, maybe a nice swap for another point guard, maybe you have something there. But you allow that to happen by not being mature enough and going out there and doing these silly things that you are doing. So for him, he just simply has to grow up, man. And it was already because, hey, everybody's excited. He comes in, he changes the franchise, and he does all that stuff. But the one knock people had outside of the fact that he couldn't hit outside shots was, all right, he can get to the basket, but is he going to have a long shelf life because of how small he is, how high he jumps, and how fearless he is by going to the rim, similar to Allen Iverson?
It's a really physically demanding style of play.
And it works.
With him already having picked up injuries,
yes.
That's the type of player that when it goes, it could go a lot faster.
And look, he's still only 25,
yeah.
But I think he got to the rim less this year. I think he got to the free throw line a little less. He just didn't seem like he was putting quite as much pressure on the rim as he previously did.
Yeah, so that's the thing with him, man, and to see how it all plays out. Here would be a tough fit. I mean, he's so talented that if he was healthy and somehow, some way it became a real conversation of trading for him and keeping him and Tyrese Maxey together, they'd be super small in the backcourt. But, man, they would be able to score the hoop. They'd just be able to score, period. Other than that, I'm good. Go elsewhere. I wonder where that elsewhere would be.
I want him to figure it out. Like I'd say these things that are judgmental of how he's handled himself. I want him to figure it out. I never root against guys as people, right? You want to see Ja look at what has happened both with his career and the off the court stuff, all that, and just say, I can be better than this. And like when he's had stretches where he's on the floor, he is of the players that I have watched in person over the last 8-9 years that I've covered every single game. He is right up there in terms of like sheer entertainment value and wow factor.
Absolutely.
Just like hanging through the air,
like him
going
and
up
Kyle
and
Anderson.
dunking on people,
Yep. That's right.
throwing those crazy cross-court whip passes. Like the type of stuff he can do, there are a very short list of players who can do that. It's just when you're talking about max players, face of the franchise guys, I don't know.
When you talked about with Zion and the city of what it is, his was totally different because we're talking about if he can't keep things right with his diet, that's a tough city, and you got all this other stuff.
It's a similar. It's funny they were drafted same class 1-2,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it's different versions of the same problem. It's like, how badly do you want this?
Here's the
Because you can
problem.
be a very good player.
And the problem with the city for him is this is a different type of city. It's not food related. He's ingrained himself in a culture there in the city that is really, really tough. And sometimes you can't get yourself out of that situation because of who you associate yourself with. And you don't, like you said, you want him to get himself together. You don't want him to get into any further trouble because of who he may be involving himself with in a city. So Memphis is a tough city, man. And it's a real deal. It's a real conversation about him and his future.
And Kyle brought up like he's not dependable at this stage. No, he's not, both because of injuries, because of missing time for other reasons. But that's also why this is a conversation. Like 3 years ago when he was dropping 27 and didn't have all these concerns,
He's
he wouldn't be
untouchable.
available.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, we talked about Jaren Jackson, Desmond Bane. They're also in the mix of just, could they be moved, of trying to figure out that whole thing that's going on in Memphis, new coaching staff. So we're not going to spend any more really time on them. We brought them up because they were also just on our list because of Ja Morant and the changes in coaches there in Memphis. When we come back, we'll get to a few more because, once again, we had a pretty extensive list of players we wanted to talk about, and we'll throw maybe a Sixer conversation in there as well. We may have brought his name up already and how likely it is that even though they said he's back, could he still maybe potentially be next? We'll get into all of that when we get back right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. It's Tuesday, everybody. Got to tell you about NBA Tip-Off Tuesdays. You have 3 playoff basketball games tonight, and you can go to Bet365 and take advantage of the NBA Tip-Off Tuesdays by placing qualifying parlay bets totaling $20 or more on tonight's NBA games and get up to $25 in bonus bets. Terms and conditions do apply. If you have not signed up yet, become one of the 90 million users worldwide. Check in on the live streams, over 780,000 events each year, and get involved as this Bet365 great company has pioneered that live in-game betting. They have the widest range of games and markets available for the live in-game betting across 78 sports, and you have an opportunity once again for the NBA Tip-Off Tuesdays. You have NBA and NHL early payout offers in the NHL. If your team gains a 3-goal lead with an instant payout on straight bets and parlay selections marked as winners, you're a winner. And for the NBA, if you're looking at Memphis and OKC, if your team goes up by 20 with an instant payout on straight bets and parlay selections marked as winners. So if you're feeling good about OKC after their 51-point victory over Memphis, maybe you want to throw something there at Bet365. And for new customers, get $150 in bonus bets when you bet 5, win or lose. Sign up, use code PHLY365, deposit 10, place a bet for 5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. Bonus bets, again, can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 plus and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
And guys, normally we talk about, hey, you take your winnings from gambling Givens parlays and turn that into something. Today we're talking about you can just get something by winning a sweepstakes. Imagine your fan cave with a bold new centerpiece, the Mod Max sectional from Ashley Furniture. Now imagine getting it for free. We've teamed up with Ashley to give one lucky winner the chance to bring home this flexible, ultra comfortable sectional. Plus, get this, guys, a $1,000 gift card to bring your dream fan cave to life. So when listen, we don't have to worry about the Sixers right now, right? You can watch all the NBA playoffs. You can be posted up for the Philly season. The Birds, obviously, if you're getting ready for the Eagles in the fall already, and I know many of you are with the draft this week, the Mod Max sectional is spacious and built for the diehard sports fan, whether you're hosting movie night, kicking back with your family, or, as we said, game day. It will upgrade your space, and entering is easy. I just need you guys to go to allphly.com/Ashley to learn about the contest, see if you're eligible, fill out your info. That's it. You're in the running. Don't wait. Sweepstakes won't last forever. Get your entry in now. You could be watching the next big game on a brand new Mod Max sectional, courtesy of Ashley. Your choice of color and configuration, that's blue or gray, up to 5 pieces. You must reside within our local delivery area to qualify for the Fan Cave giveaway. Again, visit allphly.com/Ashley for the full contest info and eligibility requirements. Terms and conditions apply.
I assume part of that terms and conditions were not eligible because I
wish I was eligible. Boy, I would love to have a sectional and certainly $1,000 gift card for some furniture upgrades. I might use that on some outdoor stuff. I think cleared out some stuff in our back patio. That'd be quite nice, but nicer for you guys at home.
And as a matter of fact, if you want to go and get some patio or a new couch and all that, if you sign up to become a diehard member at the new intro offer at $36, you can read some great stories by Derek and Kyle on the Sixers.
A lot of draft stuff coming up.
A lot of draft stuff coming up.
Yeah, baby.
You got the Birds with the draft starting in 2 days. So, of course, Zach, Bo, Fran, Les Bowen getting you set and things that happen in the moment. Maybe Dallas Goedert gets traded potentially. You want to read about it at allphly.com. Phillies and Flyers as well. Jim Salisbury, Bob Cooney, and Charlie O'Connor. You check it all out at allphly.com. So, for the Draft Day Live limited time intro offer of $36, you can become a diehard member, become a part of the community, the Discord, get 20% off of events, and you get a free t-shirt, all at allphly.com. And as we speak about events, you can sign up and hang out with us at our draft lottery party on May 12th. That's an event that you get to take advantage of only if you are a member of the diehard community. So you have to sign up, become a diehard member, and check in at allphly.com. Hit the drop box there, the drop arrow on the website. Go to the events page and you'll see our draft lottery party. You sign up, you get a discount on the ticket price to come hang out with us, and we'll have some fun on May 12th as you bring in all your good luck charms and hope that the 76ers get the number 1 overall pick, and at the worst overall, keep the top 6 pick in general. But it's going to be a good night, we hope.
We hope that's the worst case scenario.
That's what I mean. Food, drinks, pop a shot, helmets, tank helmets that are available for you that we'll have here at the draft lottery party on May 12th. So go sign up. Come hang out with us on May 12th. That'll be here.
Jay the Jungle says, I'll be there, baby. And INS said, I'll bring 40 ounces.
St. Ides.
We might need that.
I see it, St. Ides.
I was a hurricane high gravity guy back in the day, but I don't think I've touched a 40 in probably 14 years or so.
Not many people
Maybe
do
15
anymore.
years. Once you turn 21, you're not drinking a lot of 40s.
Head said there, I'll be there with bells on. Cool. Can't wait to see everybody on that night and hanging out with us here at the office for the NHL and the NFL and the NBA. All kinds of draft lottery stuff we have going on here at the PHLY studio. All right, let's get to the next one. Did we talk, Derek, about little Paul George? Even though they said he's not going anywhere, could he potentially be the next guy somewhere down the line, maybe on the move?
Well, I think certainly if you were going to rank Sixers that could be traded.
Let's do that.
Of the significant contracts, I think he's the most likely, right? Like Maxey, I don't think is likely at all.
No.
Embiid's not likely because he's just at the absolute bottom of his trade value. I think if you were going to make a significant change here, he would be the most likely.
So I want to tie this into some other names that are on our list, because I think this is, if there is a big swing opportunity for the Sixers, it's not one that a lot of people are going to like, but this would be the one that I think would be available.
Ooh.
Clearly a young superstar, right?
Old.
Not
In fact, even older than Paul George. I think if a Paul George trade that is not a break up the contract, it's not a get younger, but take a swing, I think the trade that's there is a trade for Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is, and we know Devon would be thrilled.
You know who I am.
Okay, so if you were able to get Kevin Durant, but you had to also take back Julius Randle in a 3-team trade, are you doing it?
That's a real catch-22 for Devon.
So my front court is Joel Embiid, Julius Randle, and Kevin Durant.
Logistics don't matter. It's just a hypothetical on how much you dislike
Your
Julius
least
Randle.
favorite and your most favorite.
I would take him back in that deal. I would. That would be foolish.
Let me set the stage here a little bit. The reason I say this is I for a while treated a Kevin Durant trade as kind of an impossibility for the Sixers. Just, they were going to get outbid by whether it was Houston, talk about Memphis, like they have some interesting stuff to offer.
Yeah.
But the stories that I have heard over the last couple months are essentially that Durant was gettable at the deadline and that there wasn't a gigantic asking price. Like I think they were connected to the Jimmy Butler talks. I know that the rumor was out there for a while that Jimmy wanted Phoenix. He was kind of pushing for Phoenix. He ends up in Golden State. But I think there was a trade to be had between Phoenix and Miami that would have sent Butler to the Suns, Durant to Miami, and then some other stuff to Phoenix, young players, picks, probably like Jaquez, Jovic, somewhere in there. And when I heard that, I was like, that sounded like it wasn't an overwhelming sounding package. And then so you bring it out to this summer, everyone knows that the Suns are just kind of falling apart. Everyone knows that they probably are going to move Durant. And I think some of the teams that were natural suitors, like if you're Houston, we'll see what happens in the series against Golden State. But they have a pretty long runway right now with how young they are. Obviously, they have Fred VanVleet and Steven Adams and some guys that are older contributors. But a lot of the core of that team are pretty young. They're set up with some draft equity in the future. I don't know that they're making a crazy trade. And I don't know that teams are making big asset-heavy trades for older stars, period, anymore. Not in this CBA environment. So if the Sixers went to Phoenix and said, we'll give you PG because you want to keep at least a competent, semi-competent team around Devin Booker, who I think pretty firmly wants to stay in Phoenix. We trade you a good first-round pick, and maybe you throw in McCain. I think you could probably entice Phoenix with that. Now, do I want to do that? No, I don't want. I am basically, unless you're getting an in their prime type of guy or even like slightly past their prime guy, I just don't want to push chips in. I don't want to cash in future picks for a team that I think is pretty boxed in right now. But if you are the sort of person, if you're a Kevin Durant super fan, or if you're just someone who thinks they need a bigger swing and get Paul George out of here for another veteran, I think that type of move is more available than I did maybe like 2-3 months ago. And so it's at least something to chew on during the offseason.
No, I think that move is, and of all the people talk about, Kevin Durant is the most likely to be traded.
Yes.
And I think he is more gettable than I think we would have expected well before the deadline. It is, on the one hand, it really comes down to how much do you believe in Joel Embiid? And how much are you willing to push chips in and give up some of your resources to try to win this year? Because he's only got 1 year left, right?
Yes.
Only 1 year left. Maybe you get him to sign like a 1+1 or something like that. How much do you really want to go in for the next 1 to 3 years? Yeah. It's a tough call. It would be the one thing that might make me, sort of like change on this. If they get the number 1 pick, because Cooper Flag's like the one prospect, I'm like, I think he can actually help you in the playoffs next year.
Yeah.
Which is pretty absurd to say. Most rookies cannot. I think he can. If you get the number 1 pick, and then you add Kevin Durant to Tyrese Maxey, that team can be really good, even if Joel Embiid's only playing 40 games. Now, you would hope that he can play the right games at the right time in the playoffs, but even without that, like a KD, Cooper Flag, Tyrese Tyrese Maxey core.
Keep going.
That can be maybe not championship good, but that can be really, really, really freaking good. So that might make me, at 10.5% chance at Cooper Flag might make me be willing to give up more than you would expect, or the number 2 pick, because all of a sudden, if you draft Dylan Harper, Jared McCain might not be in your long-term plans. That is the one of the guards you're going to take. That is the one you go, all right, he's good enough that you're building around. How does all the other pieces fit around him? That's where you go, all right, maybe having 4 guards isn't the right pathway forward.
Devon, I'll let you do your Kevin Durant spiel, but I think I want to say one more thing on him. I think because the Suns have been kind of a disaster in how they're put together, it has masked how productive and how good he still is. This guy's 36 years old, put up 26, 6, and 4, and shot 43% from 3 on 6 attempts per game and almost 53% from the field. Like, he is still, this deep in his career, one of the premier offensive players in the league. Just an unbelievable offensive talent.
And that's why I would make it a little bit easier. Number one is because of the 1-year contract that Derek talked about. If you give him a 1+1, you're looking at a situation there that's still pretty manageable, even at his age, because of everything that you just laid out. And while we don't know, we think Paul George is better than what we saw this year. We all think that. But then we're talking about eliminating those years. And maybe you have to change things a little bit sooner rather than later. But if you're just talking about a George, McCain, and a pick for that, and you still keep your top 6 pick, then I'm feeling okay about it just because. Now, I can say no, even though I didn't like him going to Brooklyn. Even just as a fan of his game, why are you going to Brooklyn? Why are you going to go team up with Kyrie Irving? And at that stage of what Kyrie Irving was going through, why are you going to do that? But for here, I don't think it would be that bad. He does have the respect for Joel Embiid. They've always had a really good
partial owner of the Philadelphia Union. He's got to check in on his investment.
He can go to as many games as he wants, and he's close to home, being back in in the DMV area from where he's from and all that. But it's just more of the guy can still play basketball.
Yep.
And where we saw so many things bogged down with this offense, and we talked about, yes, Paul George can still pass, he can rebound, he can facilitate and do those things. So can Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant can still score. And that was a big question as to what was Paul George missing this year. He couldn't really score the basketball. And yes, he had injuries. We know if you're talking about Kevin Durant, he's had some injuries too that has caused him to miss some time. But if we're looking at the window now, you still get the top 6 pick. You're still in win now mode, but even with Tyrese Maxey and whatever player that might be, that could still be your runway towards the future, even while trying to win in the present with what the current roster looks like.
Yeah.
So
it's just another, I think we're getting pushback today in chat. And I think part of it is like some people just want to bask in, they can't do anything and they're doomed. And so they won't even entertain like, all right, here are some, I won't say these are like outside of the box suggestions, right?
Especially
like,
KD.
Trade
KD
for Zion,
not,
trade for KD, trade for John Morant. It's not, you don't have to be a 4-dimensional chess player to think of these moves. It's just more of, okay, what is the landscape? Who are some guys that are gettable, right? Because it's easy to just sit here and say, well, it's not anymore because Luka got traded, but like, oh, this team's not trading this guy, so why call? Minnesota's not trading Anthony Edwards, so why buy? Like, you just go down the list of guys. It's more productive if you're actually trying to change and evolve and build the team and attempt to win a title to say, who is gettable, who fits with whatever our timeline is, whatever our goals are. And so, like, would Kevin Durant be my first option? No. Like, I'm at the point where I want this team to get younger. I understand he is much better than Paul George still, despite being multiple years older. And I think he would make the team better. In fact, I know he would make the team better as long as he's healthy. It's not the sort of move I would go after, but it's at least something that you have to, as an executive, as a team, to do your due diligence and say, is this better than these other 55 options that we have to consider?
We're not just pulling names out of the hat. You read stuff, you hear things of maybe some people are available or may be available because of how their season's going. Look, the Kevin Durant thing to Houston was a big one that we talked about for a while. It didn't happen at the deadline. Then, okay, maybe it's going to be pushed into the offseason. Then you hear reports that Maybe they don't want to go in that age range and because their timeline is so young. But as Kyle said and Derek talked about, if Houston gets embarrassed in this first round, maybe that changes their thinking again, where they do go back and revisit.
Things can change very quickly in the NBA.
Very quick. Look at even, right, Derek, if you go into the offseason, you saw how well Minnesota played in the playoffs. Towns didn't get traded. They played so well. You're like, oh, he's staying there.
Yeah. Oh, it's like their vision for
done.
the team. They solidified it. That proved the concept.
And then you get to September, and what happens? Karl Anthony Towns
out the door
right before training
for Julius Randle and
Dante DiVincenzo. Things change, so we're really looking at things. You know, if you know us, you know we're not any hot take type of stuff. We're not doing that. We will never do that. This is simply because you look at what's going on in the league. Luka Doncic got traded. And we're not making names up. We're looking at real names, real situations where that could really, really be a conversation that happens.
And look, if you are of the mindset that I don't want to sink more assets into this team that I don't believe can win a title, I 100% get that.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I think that's probably where I'm at too. This is really one where, like, if Joel Embiid, if you still had any confidence left that he would stay healthy, I would be all in on this.
And by the way,
he's not.
Also,
you can't.
If we could do a 3-hour show, we would talk about, oh, he fit in Portland, that guy. Or he looked good in New Orleans, that other guy. Or Chicago. We can't sit here and do a 3-hour show and talk about all the destinations.
Well, we could, but
we're not.
We'd be really testing the graciousness and the patience of not just our listeners here, but certainly Bree and the producers.
100%. 100%. All right, let's get to another name here. We mentioned Devin Booker just real fast.
With him, I don't think he wants to leave Phoenix.
It's just more of if he's ticked off and get me out of here.
The intel you generally hear on him is like he's very happy with where he's at, being the guy there, all that. Cool, that's fine.
It's an awesome city, and they love their son.
Yeah, and he's close to LA and all that. So
yeah,
I think he likes it there. I don't think he's going anywhere. But if he's on the block, that's a good enough player. You got to at least kick the tires on and say, what would it take?
Absolutely. All right, let's get another one in here. This is real too. They played tonight, by the way, game 2. Damian Lillard looks like he's going to play tonight for the Milwaukee Bucks. We'll see how good he is when he gets out there. How about Giannis? This has been going on for last few seasons.
This is the one I will say I don't see any path to the Sixers getting it.
No, they'll get outbid in a second.
This is more
league.
Could he be on the move? And
this
has been a thing that's been talked about to death for years and years. And the Bucks fans get, and to some degree rightfully so, mad every time it comes up. Like, he's not going to the Lakers. He's not doing this. But we are getting closer to the point where it's like, he is almost taken for granted on a league-wide basis, right? Which is weird to say about a player who is a perennial top 3 MVP guy. He feels like he's always the third place MVP guy now. It's Jokic, it's been Shea the last couple of years, but it was Joel before that, and then Giannis is right there. But there's no real expectation the Bucks are going to compete for a title, right? It's like they're a frisky second-round team, and like Dame's really good, and Giannis is great, but they have no real chance. And I think if you're Giannis, at some point, you just have to look around and say, what is the thing that matters the most to me? And I do think in his heart of hearts, I believe him when he has said, no, I want to stay in Milwaukee. I want to be like a one-team guy and all that. But if you just look around and say, Doc's not doing anything for me as a coach. There are no outs with what they can trade or who they can trade for.
They're in a tough situation.
I do wonder if there is a limit for him where he just says, the last few years of my career, I'm just going to chase it somewhere else. Like put me on maybe not a super team, but a team that's more of a 2-star. We have some young guys with talent and a better coach. Like, is that Milwaukee? Is that somewhere else? I don't know. But I do wonder how limitless his patience is.
He wants to stay in Milwaukee, but he also wants to pressure them into trading for Dame, and he wants to make sure his coach is hired. Yeah.
By the way, good job, Adrian Griffin, and moving on from Drew Holiday. I don't know. Good job, buddy. Good job.
Not the best GM.
Not the best GM.
Better player than GM, for sure.
Yes, he is. So it's more about the league than it is the Sixers, but that's one that as you guys know, we haven't made that one up. That's around the league,
No,
and that has
but-
been the case for years.
To Kyle's point, if that ever happens, the Sixers aren't winning that.
Yeah,
bid.
they do not
Unless
have
they
the
get like the
horses.
number 1 pick.
Actually, that's a good hypothetical. Would you trade?
Cooper
You
Flag.
can't do it. It's illegal. Would you straight up just trade Cooper Flag, number 1 pick, for Giannis today?
If you're the Bucks.
No, take the Bucks
I mean,
out
the
of it.
Bucks should definitely do it because
Yeah.
I don't. To Kyle's point, I think there's a real. I don't know if it's like 100%, but I think it's probably getting close to 50 that in the next 2 years he might try to ask out. It's just obviously that's not sourced. I'm a Sixers reporter.
Yeah.
It's just they have very few pathways to contending long term. People tend to get frustrated when that happens.
All right.
So would you just straight up trade today? The Bucks are saying yes. Cooper Flag for Giannis today.
And Giannis turns 31.
I think he's turning
next year.
31 in December.
Yeah.
I think he still has like a good 5-6 left in him.
I'm doing it, man. Like
I'm doing it.
I love Cooper Flag.
I'm doing it, 'cause
But
he's-
if you could do that, and you can't because of the salary
He
stuff.
is though
whatever.
right at that age where you start thinking about it. Like if he was 29, you go, yeah, obviously.
But the
right
production
away.
is still just so good. You have to do
I'm
it.
not going to sit here and be like, yeah, I'm taking the guy who I think is going to be good.
No, I mean,
versus
Giannis
the
is still a-
perennial MVP.
Giannis is
candidate.
still a top 3 player in this league.
All right, let's go to another one. I don't know how the guys feel about this one for the Sixers. More league-wide because of where they are, but Trae Young,
For the Sixers?
new GM,
Yeah.
they're out. Quinn Snyder's still there, but they have a lot of wings, and maybe they feel like, maybe we can get a better guard. Not a better guard in general, but just the type of guard that we want, the way we want to play. So Sixers, maybe, but more so the league in this case.
It just feels like he should be in Orlando. Like that seems like the team that should kind of go in on him.
It would be the perfect fit.
Because like
for
they
him.
have enough athletes and size that they can hide some of his defensive weaknesses. They desperately need perimeter scoring and passing. They seem like the team that should.
But that sounds like a change of scenery thing because now he has enough length and depth there in terms of that position where he's covered.
Yeah, but there's just
Dyson
more
Daniels is
talent.
a MVP. I mean,
No, he's a
Defensive
great
Player of the
defender.
Year
Yep, absolutely.
candidate. Yeah.
And Reece Lachey, I think, can help long term.
Jalen Johnson is pretty darn good when he's out there, and they have
No, I mean
Okongwu.
he's a bad defender that really needs to be hid.
So Orlando, though, you guys say
I think they should bid more than the
He's
Sixers
one of the
would.
few that is one of the few teams that I think could absorb him, and it's like they get all the best parts of having him and can insulate him a bit.
So what's that for them? Orlando, they would maybe Suggs or Anthony Black, one of the guards. You're gonna have to give up one of those guys.
It'll be mostly picks, I think. But yeah, you're probably trading some. You're not trading Paolo. You're not trading Franz. I think almost anyone else and picks. But I would say I, as an archetype, am just kind of out on the Trae Young style guards. I think he is at the high end of that type of player, right? Like it is not easy to average 24 and like 12 assists a game and all, but the window is just so narrow for that type of player to be your best player and to be like the engine of a team that can actually win anything. I would be interested in seeing him on a team like Orlando, but if you're asking me, if we brought it back to the Sixers, I'm good. Yeah. I don't really see the need or the upside on that for them.
More league stuff for Trae Young overall, but they just lost again. And the worst thing that happened to them was beating the Sixers in that playoff series because they thought that
He called the regular season boring.
Because he
hasn't been back to the playoffs proper since.
So that was the worst thing to happen to that franchise, was advancing sooner rather than later for them.
It was like the monkey's paw wish. Like, I want to go to the conference finals, but you'll never be back.
You'll never be back. Change the trajectory of both franchises in a sense because of how the Simmons things played out. You go get James Harden, all that stuff. Kind of like a what if, right, Kyle? Kind of like a little bit. Perhaps. But Trae Young, that's an interesting one to watch in the offseason as well. Randy Rubar says traded to the Kings. Well, stay tuned.
Maybe we'll talk about that in overtime.
There you go. A little overtime on the TV side. Thank you so much. Join us at AllPHLY to continue watching us here on this Tuesday. They brought up Sabonis. We were going to bring up Sabonis. It's a mess again in Sacramento. One more time, it's a mess where the Sacramento Kings have fired their coach. Then they move on from their general manager. They bring in a general manager that I don't even know why the hell they brought Scott Perry in without doing more of a look around the league.
Is that official? Did they actually? I know that was
reported.
As,
so we'll just say it's reported. I just didn't get that one.
Oh, no, they did. It went official yesterday.
Okay, so it's official now. Scott Perry's taking over. Good luck. Whatever. But number one, at the trade deadline, Kyle, we said, we saw this before. Why are the Kings doing it and think they're going to get something better with DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine with that trade? De'Aaron Fox has moved out. Malik Monk is playing your point guard position, and you're arguably your best player doesn't understand what his role is within the flow of what's going on with the Sacramento Kings. There are already reports out there saying that if he doesn't get a pretty good idea of what they're doing in the offseason, that maybe he's the next one to ask out.
He's another guy. I'm out on him. Like, he very talented, very skilled, just not the, and we'll probably circle back on this idea as we talk about prospects like a Derek Queen, for example. But when you're a big man, the passing is great. The rebounding is awesome, and that is a reason to kind of hedge against this a little bit. But when you're a problematic defender in the front court, it is just so hard to work around.
Yeah.
That is the most important thing, and so you have to be a tremendously gifted offensive player to make up for it. So could he make a team better? Sure.
100%.
Could I name that team and think like, oh, he's going to take them from... He could make a fringe team a firm playoff team. I think if you're a firm playoff team and you add him to the team, he's not helping you get any closer, because I think the drawbacks come along with what he offers in terms of production.
It is interesting because he's been top 10 in MVP 2 years in a row, all NBA 2 years in a row. And like, there will be portions earlier in the season where people legitimately talk about him as an MVP candidate. And not everyone's convinced that he can contribute to winning basketball. And I think what Kyle brought up, defense at that position is almost impossible to overcome.
Yep.
It's like, you have to be Jokic level, and he's good. He's not Jokic level. And I think Jokic at his peak defensively, now I don't think this year he's been at that peak very often, but at his peak, I think Jokic is still a better defender. If for no other reason, I think he's way more positionally sound. I think there's a lot of defensive concerns here. He's not all that young at this point anymore either. He'll be turning 30 here, I think, sometime next year. I might have that wrong, but it is, he is certainly not the archetype. And we've mentioned that a lot here with Queen, like Kyle brought up, that I gravitate towards. I think he's a little bit overrated and has been ever since getting there. But yeah, I don't see a 6.
19, 14 boards, 6 assists.
Him and Maxey would just be, and I know Maxey's made steps defensively. I think that would be a real exploitable pick and roll tandem.
But he would help him on offense.
Oh, he for sure.
Passing.
100%,
That passing.
100%.
Yeah, the passing and all of that stuff that he gets done on the low block, he would certainly help in that regard. Interesting name.
I mean, he would be the best passer on the team by far.
Interesting name. One to keep your eye on. Not necessarily for the Sixers, but just, again, around the league.
Yep.
Another pretty good name. And one that I wanted to throw in to the guys, that the franchise just stinks. It's just bad. I even had them at, you know what, they're going to get a little bit better. Charles Lee's going to come in there and do some things. LaMelo Ball can't stay on the floor. He's super talented. He can score the basketball. He can pass the rock. Defense is terrible. He's 6'6", 6'7" at that point guard position. Sees the floor really, really well with that height, of course. At what point is it that they decide and say, you know what? Yes, he's a draw. It helps with the ticket sales, but he's not helping that much enough with the ticket sales and the jersey, the apparel, and all of that. But they just decide to move on.
I got to tell you, there are a few players who infuriate me more than LaMelo Ball. A lot of respect.
He's a Julius Randle.
A lot of respect for his talent, but the Chino Hills LeVar Ball special, he is still playing that way now, right? And it's not in. I think we see some of the downstream when you saw early career Lonzo, right, where it was like the play fast, look for the hit ahead, all that, and it's less of the take one-footed threes from 35 feet out and
regularly.
LaMelo is just such a hard one for me to properly analyze. I mean, if we're talking about guys who have had injury problems, last 3 seasons, 36 games played, 22 games played, 47 games played this year. The three-point shot has been like slightly above average for his career, but not anything special. Now, if you want to just talk about, let's say, playmaking ambition, he is definitely one of the most ambitious passers in the league.
Tony Roten.
And when those passes come off, they're great. Averaged 7.4 assists this season. That's actually exactly his career average. He's had a couple years of 8+ assists per game. High turnover style, so I think that's part of why it's not all of it, but part of why it's tough for them to win. Yeah, I mean, I want playmaking on the Sixers. I don't think I wanted enough to deal with all the other craziness with him.
I am in a life or death battle to save what's left of my hairline and what's left of the color in my hair. And if they trade for LaMelo Ball, that is gone. That's gone. I can't do it.
Do you see Charlotte, though, just deciding, forget about the Sixers, just more of, hey, the other teams in the NBA, let's talk a little bit because we can't do this anymore?
He doesn't play basketball. I mean, how much value can he have on a trade market?
I don't know. I mean, Money Mark says you can't win with him. Slade says LaMelo is the Joel Embiid of ankles because of the bad ankles and stuff that continues to happen with him. It was just an interesting name that I wanted to put out there, not for the Sixers, just more of, could this guy be on the move at some point? Yeah, at some point.
Can I throw? Oh, actually, go ahead, Derek.
Oh, I was gonna say I think that's fair. I just don't think I think they might have interest in trying to cash out. I'm just not sure they're gonna get enough back.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the last one.
I was gonna say, can I throw one in there that we have talked about?
Yeah.
Markkanen.
Yeah.
Who was we had a listener, reader, Jamie, right, from Brazil, who every other day it was like some form of chat comment, tweet, email, whatever. Like, who cares about Paul George? Who cares about anything other than trading for
Lauri
Markkanen? And then he signs the extension that takes him off of the potential trade list for a year.
Markkanen watch is back, baby.
I think, despite the fact that there are no active Markkanen rumors, and that I think in their heart of hearts they probably would like to keep him if they get a good draft outcome here, they are in an interesting spot as a franchise in Utah where they've torn it down. They've been rebuilding for a little bit, and they really don't have much to show for it. Like, there is no blue chip prospect. There is no guy that's like, man, he really took a step forward. I mean, frankly, Cody Williams is probably the worst rookie in the whole class, certainly of the top 20 guys. He has shown the least and was disparaged all year by Utah fans, Utah media, whatever. And I think if, let's say Utah gets an unfavorable outcome in the lottery and they end up in, let's say 5th, for example, and that's a little bit no man's land. There's no slam dunk prospect. There's no guy, and this applies to the Sixers too, nobody you can draft there that's like, that guy changes our franchise from day one. And so you're still looking at, they're a couple years away from putting something together, save for a miracle trade or just some crazy outcome with that pick. I would not be surprised at that point if Utah looks at Markkanen and is like, let's trade him. Let's max value we can get for him. He's 20, I want to say 27, 28, somewhere in that range. So he's right in his prime years, maximize his value. I could absolutely see Danny Ainge looking at that situation and doing that. Now that relies on a couple different things happening, but if he becomes available, very appealing player, just like he was last offseason.
Yeah.
You can play small with him as a big and some, athletic wings next to him. Use him as a power forward. Most importantly, he just shoots the hell out of the ball, right? And he had a down shooting year this season in an abbreviated year because he only played 40-something games, but generally, he is the type of 4 that I think works best for Maxey, Joel, like anybody who's on the roster. I think he'd be an excellent fit if he becomes available. Just a little bit of an if right now.
That price has got to be realistic, though. Like now that he's on that big money long-term extension, now that he had a down year, and it wasn't just shooting, like his rebounding was really bad as well. His efficiency overall was down. He had a significantly down year. That like 5 first-round picks is insanity. You're not getting 5 first-round
no
picks
chance.
for him. You might get 2. And if he comes to closer to reality, then sure, I have interest because he is still young enough where he can be with Maxey and McCain longer term. He's only 27, probably got 4 or 5 years at least of his prime left. I think he could age pretty well because of that shot and the height. He'd play and be effective right now, but like Danny Ainge has got to be realistic here. This can't.
Yeah, and look, Daryl and Danny have a relationship at least, right? So if he becomes available, there will be calls made.
Yep.
It's just we don't know if that'll happen. And if they get Cooper Flag, then you just take it off the board because at that point it's boy the white boy extravaganza in Utah. It'll be as Colin Hanks once said, "White boy summer in Salt Lake City." So
Slade says Provo P.
Boy, I can't imagine a place that Paul George would want to play less than for the Utah Jazz. Based
still
on
be out
being
west,
the California guy.
He'd still be out west overall. That'll wrap up our names in general here. We had a lot of names. We went to overtime, and that was fun. Again, some Sixers-centric, of course, but also more around the league to keep an eye on some of these names, especially with watching the Grizzlies tonight, see how that plays out for those players. And some of the others in the postseason.
Well, you're watching the first quarter at least. After that, who knows? That could be a laugher again.
No doubt about it, man. Let's get to our daily tankathon spin to get this one in.
Oh, by the way, did you guys see Tatum is now doubtful for game 2 with that wrist issue?
Okay. Yeah.
Good chance for Orlando if they're going to steal one. Try to get one on the road.
Revised prediction: Celtics in 5. It's as long as I'm going though. Not going more than 5.
All right. Celtics.
Did we pick sweep? I don't remember. If
I think we did. I think most of us did.
I usually don't like picking sweeps. It feels disrespectful.
I think we did 5.
Feeling good about most of my predictions right now, honestly.
That Nuggets Clippers is going to be incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Man, so I don't know about you guys. Watching that game last night, I was like, this is game 4 of 2019 second round, where it's like, it's close the whole game. And I even texted a buddy of mine. I was like, the Nuggets better win this game before crunch time because there is no shot Kawhi won't hit the winner here if they give him the chance. He was full Terminator mode.
And it really felt like that first quarter, they needed to be up 15 because the Clippers weren't doing anything.
What were they
couldn't make an
9?
outside shot. They were turning the ball over.
I think
and
the biggest lead in the whole game was 8 for either team. It was close the whole game.
Turning the ball over. Nuggets were getting out in transition, and they were only up like 6 or something like that because Kawhi had like 14 points on 5 shots or something. It was wild.
What was he, 15 for 19 last night or something like that?
He started 12 for 13. Yeah. He was 12 for 13 in the fourth quarter.
On jump shots.
He only missed 1 shot inside the arc.
On jump shots.
Crazy.
And it's not like he was getting to the rim.
He wasn't getting to the basket.
It wasn't even like he was getting by his guy. It's
But
just,
that's what I know the
It's
mid-range
so
has fallen out of
frustrating.
favor, right? Like it's become a threes and layups league and blah, blah, blah. I love watching him when he's in this mode and he's like, I'm just going to take 17 mid-range shots and make 13
contested
of them.
ones too. Now, Grant, look, he was rising up over
There is
Murray and he's
nothing
got a
you can
couple
do.
inches, but a couple inches
Unbelievable.
matter.
You got to get the ball out of his hands
Yeah.
because if you play him in single coverage, you're just dead.
And that's why they
good
let
team.
ISO like that too, because there's more. You have to cover more ground to send a double team. It's tough.
It's a good team, man. It's a really good team.
So
Good
many
series.
flashbacks of 2019, man. I just felt like, oof.
Yeah, remember when he was taking like 30 shots in those games? And he's taking 30 shots, but he's making a good 15 of them and backbreakers overall for him. All right, what you got on the daily tankathon spin? No, Minnesota,
4.
by the way. 4.
Number 4.
All right. So I said Ace at 3. So if Ace is gone,
Well,
going.
No, we'll make it hard for Derek. VJ at 3. Are you taking Ace at 4?
I've said Ace is
Okay.
4 for me. Yep.
how about you?
It's
either
whichever one of
two.
those is there. Like
Same.
now, I would say I'm a little more open if it's VJ there. I don't know who
Ooh.
it would be that I would draft over him.
Ooh,
I think
okay.
Khan might be my 5th right now.
Ooh,
I think he might be my 5th.
Listen. I said to you a week ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever. Like the more I've watched him, I've been like, I think he's gonna be really good, at least offensively. The defense stuff you got to figure out, but there's just so much to him with the playmaking, the instincts, I don't know, man.
Music Lover 31 agrees, but he says Khan at 4.
No, I'm not going 4 yet. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I do think with VJ.
This is in part, by the way, why I don't like putting out big boards before I have to. Unfortunately, we do a show where we talk every day, but like this is going to change as I do more research.
VJ could be one of those you look back at and say, with the NBA spacing, that athleticism is going to pop much more on offense. Like he does have issues with the handle and figuring out the self-creation stuff, but when you're playing against a bogged down paint and you're just driving into bodies versus the whole floor is spread and you can just attack space, that might be a big separator for him. So I'm still taking him top 4, but I like more guys in this class than I thought I would when we started the process.
I just don't love very many of them.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right, just under a month away from the draft lottery again, May 12th. So we'll see how things play out for the Sixers and everybody else in the lottery. Hope the Sixers get number 1 overall pick, and we don't have to worry about any of that stuff when it comes to the 3rd or the 4th pick. But if they do, we'll be here for it. All right, one last news and note that we wanted to give you because they are about to play again, so we wanted to give you this one. First, Bree, let's look at the Kyle Kuzma box score from Game 1.
Oh, God. The Tony Snell special?
Yeah. That was...
we're cycling
right
through. There we go.
There you go. And he missed,
Tony Snell, we're hanging your jersey in the Raptors, brother. You no longer are the 00000 graphic.
And that photo is him at the free throw line. So he still had an opportunity to make 2 free throws, and he missed both. 22 minutes and a goose egg up and down.
Unbelievable confirmation of exactly what we said in our prediction show, that when you're relying on Kyle Kuzma to be your second guy, there is a high chance that things go wrong. So it appears Dame Lillard will be back for Game 2.
Yes.
That should, keyword should, make a big difference for Kuzma and the rest of the Bucks.
Well, it'll help out the head coach where he doesn't have to, Bree, give you an answer like this one and explaining. Little flashback for Derek and Kyle, just where they got to hold their head, because listen to Doc Rivers talk about Kyle Kuzma not scoring.
When you don't touch the ball. I mean, no offense. Kyle got 2 shots in the first half, both with 2 seconds on the shot clock. So, Kuzma can play, but we got to involve him, and we got to make sure we keep him involved. It's hard to score.
And the consensus was, you're the coach.
Again, it's a theme I talked about with this year's Sixers team. I love when people who are directly responsible for things talk about it as if it's something that just happened to them
or something like that.
Yeah, I think you should leave the guy in the hot dog suit. We're all trying to find the guy who did this. Doc Rivers, you're in the Oscar Mayer mobile, buddy. Figure it out. That was a Doc disaster class to open the playoffs, by the way.
Oh, man. So there you go. There's our quick news and notes. We have a lot more. We've been going overtime, so we keep passing them over to the very next day. I'm sure we'll have some more. Maybe we'll get to a few of those tomorrow. That'll wrap it up for us here on this Tuesday edition of the PHLY Sixers podcast. Let's get to the world-famous roll call.
Thank you, everyone, for sticking around with us today. Another long show. We've got a lot of these long off-season shows. We like to yap up here in the off-season,
We got 120 shows to do before the next game. We're like, let's go to overtime every day.
Thank you, everyone, for being here, including but not limited to X-Man, to Music Lover 31, to Martian Lynch 33, to Sean Sharp, to AA, parentheses, frequent meeting. Thank you, AA.
AA.
And also AA, Ron.
That's
another AA.
No,
it's a different AA. We got multiple AAs. Thank you both for being here. We got Jess with the Purple Heart, who, by the way, I think I forgot yesterday in our roll call. So apologies to Jess, who always shows up for us. Dave Dewar, who was basically the cranky old man in the chat today, saying, none of these options are good. I sympathize, Dave. Hopefully they get the number 1 pick and we don't have to worry about any of this nonsense. Jay the Jungle hanging out with us. Bootzilla.
Boots.
Joaquin from Cherry Hill. Money Mar.
What up, Mar?
Not even on the public enemy list anymore. SB Cole. We got Hedfa. Neil Deaver. Slade
always need a good theme
My
music.
girl Winona coming through. RJ Rich hanging out. Mary Overfield.
Hey, Mary.
Sal.
Sal.
I think we had I Gavini. I know we had Mello 3-point. I
Mello,
know
my man.
we had Joe Tiz, who spent the whole chat saying anything positive about Joel Embiid is propaganda. I get it, buddy. We're all frustrated. It happens. Thank
that
you, Joe,
Mello one-leg
for stopping
3-point?
through. Thank you to Randy Rubart. Thank you to Rick Morse,
What up,
who I saw
Randy?
early in the show. Rick, I hope you come by for the event, and I hope all of you somehow end up this event. Mom's grandchildren, last and certainly not least. Hello to Mom, hanging out in here, as she does all the time. All of you, please, on the way out, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get notifications each and every time we go live, and hit that thumbs up to say thank you, super producer Bree, for doing it all, as always, pulling up clips, making the show work.
Perfect.
Give that love to Bree. She deserves it. We'll be back once again every day, 3 o'clock, Monday through Friday, all off season. We will see you then. Until then, goodbye. Thanks for stopping through.
What if?
We all silly like the mayor.